Welcome to this edition of Compassionate Conversations. My name is Lynn Flanagan, and I'm the CEO at Hospice of Rockingham County. Compassionate Conversations is one more way that our organization strives to connect with, care for, and support the community that we serve. Joining me today is Teressa Townes. She is our Director of Human Resources. Thanks for being here.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We've got big news to share today, and this is going to be a bit of a twist from our usual podcast, but it's exciting news. But before we dive into all of that, what would you like our listeners to know about you?
Well, as Lynn said, I'm Teressa Townes, Director of Human Resources. I've been with Hospice of Rockingham County for 23 and a half years, have actually served in several roles over the past 23 years, from medical records to billing. The last few years I've found my feet planted in human resources, which I absolutely love doing. So that's about it.
We've been together for a long time. And we've kind of joked about, remember that old commercial, "You come a long way, baby"? Yes. Well, that's what we're going to talk about today as far as the organization is concerned. So I don't want to steal your thunder. So what's the big announcement?
So the big announcement is that for the second year straight, we have been named by Modern Healthcare as a best place to work.
In the whole country.
In the whole country.
Yeah, that is.
And we are so proud of that.
No kidding. That is such an awesome accomplishment. So typically, we have used this podcast to educate the community about the services we provide. We've had every different discipline come through since we started this several months ago, talking about the holistic care that we provide the community. So this is a bit of a different twist, as we're going to talk about best places to work, but this is going to focus on what I would consider the holistic support we have for our employees. So let's just start off talking about what does this survey mean? What are they looking for?
So it's actually kind of a two-part.
Okay.
First, there's the assessment of the organization. So they're really wanting to know how we care for our employees. So they're looking at everything from the makeup of our senior leadership team to the makeup of our board, our staff. They look at our core values, diversity and inclusion, our health benefits. So they really kind of dive into the day-to-day of Hospice of Rockingham County and what we provide for our employees. They want to see how we celebrate our employees, their achievements, birthdays, anniversaries, even looking at our employee assistance program. So they just want to, I feel like, get a snapshot of us and who we are. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So in addition to the assessment, which there's lots of things in there I think we can pull out and talk about. So what's the second piece?
So the second piece is the actual survey that goes to all full-time and part-time employees.
Okay. And
that's their rule. So we also have PRN employees, but this survey only includes full-time and part-time employees.
okay. And it's anonymous.
Anonymous, it is.
So, and I think that's important because as we talk through this a little bit, we want to certainly make sure people feel comfortable completing the survey and being honest, right? But I'll go back to kind of the overall assessment of the organization first. Back in the day, when you and I first joined the workforce, we won't say how many years ago that's been, but you know, when you talked about benefits, at that time, my mind would immediately go to like your medical benefits, your health insurance, dental, vision, things like that. But now when we say benefits, it's so much bigger than that.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about how our benefits, and this survey is looking to see how we support employees.
So there's a lot of questions around things that deal with mental health, let's say. Just how are we helping our employees to have better mental health? So whenever we interview someone, I always talk about the fact that what we do, hospice, is amazing work, but it's also hard work.
Yes.
So I talk to new employees about self-care. So I feel like they're looking at how we help our employees take care of themselves. So I don't know if you wanted me to talk about examples of things
I would love
that we
to.
do.
I think that'd be
So
great.
we have an amazing service through something called Ally Health. And this is telemedicine, but it also has a mental health component to it. And we provide this to every employee, full-time, part-time, PRN, at no cost to the employee. And the great thing about it is it also is a benefit for your entire household.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
That is something I don't think a lot of organizations would do.
Right.
But probably, to me, one of the greatest things about that particular benefit is that can happen from day one.
Day one, that's right.
So you don't, that might help kind of bridge the gap during a probationary period where you, as far as other medical insurance goes.
Absolutely.
So I sit in on a lot of interviews with you, and we do talk to people about how they take care of themselves. You know, everybody has stuff in their own life, right? But I think as an employer, it's important for us, for employees to know that we're very aware.
Yes.
Everybody has their own stressors. But again, like you said, what we do is such important work, but it's emotional work.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter if you're at the bedside or if you're in medical records or in billing, you are surrounded by it all the time. And you know what our mission is. And we all know the seriousness, what the community needs from us. So if we're not pouring back into ourselves, supporting our employees, we're not going to be able to fulfill that mission, right?
If you're not taking care of yourself, how can you take care of somebody else?
Exactly.
You can't.
You absolutely cannot. And plus, a piece of supporting employees, to me, whether it's through the behavioral health component of Ally Health, I think we can also play a positive role in taking away some of the stigma.
Yes.
You know, it's interesting to me how these two things go together, because with hospice care, end-of-life care, or serious illness care, we talk about taking care of the whole person.
Yes.
So that really shouldn't be any different than taking care of the whole employee.
Absolutely.
I would say. Well, let's skip to something else just for a minute. But you mentioned that the survey is interested in how we celebrate employees.
Yes.
So what are some ways that we try to highlight folks?
So every month we do recognize, we have a tool called Kudo Board. So we do recognize employees' birthdays and anniversaries every month. We also use that Kudo Board for employees to do shout outs every week, actually. And it's always good to just see peer-to-peer folks,
Absolutely.
you know, recognizing each other. Trying to think, what else? So we do what we call a value recognition. So we have a set of values here, everything from compassion, respect, teamwork, integrity. I don't want to start naming them because I know I'm going to forget some. But so every month at staff, everyone on leadership chooses someone to present a value recognition pin to. And we also do a wheel where we choose one employee to do it. Just having an example of how an employee exhibited respect or teamwork or compassion. So that's another way that we acknowledge our employees.
And so that does a couple of things in my mind. There are wonderful ways to recognize somebody, but it also keeps our core values in front of all of us all the time, which again is something that modern healthcare is looking for as an employer. So what's that old saying? We can't just talk the talk. You gotta walk the walk. So I think that's part of the way that we do that. Yes. But the Kudo board that goes out every week, that's a twofold benefit. So it is a peer-to-peer recognition. I love going on there. I love reading them every week. And it's a chance for coworkers to recognize their coworkers. Yes. But it's also, they're expressing gratitude, so there's a benefit when we express gratitude as well, right?
Absolutely.
So it's a wonderful way to highlight, it's like, hey, y'all need to know this is what this person did this week that was a little bit above and beyond.
Yes.
But then the person that's doing the shout out gets the benefit of showing some gratitude.
Yes.
And that's part of our self-care too, in my opinion. So that is awesome. So we also have something that's coming up every quarter as another way to highlight employees, and we have the rock star of the quarter. So when you were talking about the value recognition, typically that comes from senior leadership, and you're right, we choose one staff member to recognize somebody, but the rock star of the quarter, that strictly comes from all staff. Yes. Everybody has an opportunity to nominate a coworker with whatever their reason is. Yes. And then I have the privilege at the staff meeting, I get to read all those nominations, and then the votes come from the staff. Yes. So I think everything doesn't always come from leadership, and I think that's important, that it goes all the way through. Yes. So everybody knows they've got an opportunity to participate on some level.
We stress quite often that we want our employees to use their voice. Mm-hmm. And we stress that it is safe to use your voice. We want to hear from you. And even in this survey, when we first heard about best places to work, well, let's try it,
Right.
But what we knew is that it would be a great learning opportunity for us.
That's right.
We could learn hopefully what we're doing well, but also where we can use a little improvement. So we are a best place to work, but we're not a perfect place. So we're always trying to learn how we can do better.
So with everybody having a voice,
yes,
that made me go back and think about our efforts at diversity and equity and inclusion and belonging.
Yes.
That right there is even a change, because a year or two ago, we just called it diversity, equity, inclusion.
That's right.
And we have a specific committee here, which I'll ask you to talk about in just a minute. But now, what's that saying? As you know better, you do better. So we learn.
Yes.
So now belonging is a piece of that, and that's huge as part of somebody's well-being.
Yes.
But let's just talk some about that, how everybody does have an opportunity to be heard, whether it's through this anonymous survey. We have other ways.
Yes.
But with our DEI committee, what are some of the things that that committee focuses on that would lend itself, I guess, to a best places to work?
So probably 2.5 years ago, we formed, at that time it was DEI, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. And we wanted to have representation from each discipline here. And we did accomplish that. So over the past 2 years, I'm proud to say that the committee has grown. So usually at every staff, we do a presentation, education, an activity around diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. And we feel that inclusion especially is important for this staff. We want everyone to feel included. So we focus on how we're different, but we still can come together and work together. Our differences are what make us, I believe, a best place to work. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I would totally agree with that. And, there's something that you and I did. We learned this from a national conference that we went to. But this was also inclusion, and it was so much learning for us.
Yes.
We realized that we now have 4 separate
Yes.
and distinct generations that work here.
Yes.
I think our youngest employee is 20, 21, and our oldest employee is 75, which is fantastic.
Yes.
But we know there are differences, and we had meetings with each generation, and that learning was tremendous.
It was.
And I think people we got a lot of positive feedback that they just appreciated the opportunity to be focused on, number one, but then to have some say-so. So we learned as leaders in the organization, but I think each teams within the team learned. It may not be something that we think about readily, but that the younger employees, I think after those meetings, understood why the older employees want a phone call. Maybe they don't want a text.
Right. Exactly.
It's small things like that.
Right.
But it made that team stronger.
Yes.
I think.
And it all came about just by having a conversation.
That's right. That's
So,
right.
yeah.
So we learn all the time, and we're very open to that, which I think that by itself makes us the best place to work, that you've got leadership that's always open to learning from everybody. The days of the CEO or the leadership team know it all. Oh, for heaven's sakes. No, that is not a thing,
Right.
because if we're not always striving to learn, we're never going to cascade that through
Right.
the organization. But how do we use the information we get back from this survey?
So last year and this year, once we get the results back, we present it at staff meeting. I feel like we had some good conversation. We went through every category, every question, every percentage, and we got some good feedback from our staff concerning the overall results of the survey. So then we took those results, and actually some of them we used as action plans and goals for our operational plan, but we also used it as an opportunity to implement some new benefits, as well as maybe improve or tweak some old benefits. So in that regard, the survey did allow us to listen to our employees and act on some of their suggestions.
Yeah. And I think it's so important for us to be as transparent as we can
Absolutely.
be. Because what good is it? It's not going to do us any good to have this information and just hold on to it and not share it with anybody.
Right.
So by sharing it with the staff, and you did an excellent job with that presentation, but I think that means a lot to people because they realize, hey, even through this survey, in addition to all the other ways that we have here, I did have a voice.
Yes.
And they've got the potential to impact positive change.
Yes.
So all of this comes back to what Modern Healthcare or the research company that does the survey, they call it an overall employee engagement score.
Yeah.
So let's talk about employee engagement just for a minute and why that's important.
Employee engagement is important because it is a great way to retain great talent.
Exactly.
As well as improve organizational performance.
Yeah.
Highly engaged employees are more likely to feel included.
Right.
And for me, those employees are the ones who are going to support the organization.
Exactly.
So.
And it's interesting, this may sound strange, but I think it's important to think about engagement doesn't necessarily mean happy
Right.
all the time.
Right.
And I don't mean that in a negative way.
Right.
But it does mean you've got to voice, hey, I was able to ask that question, or I gave this suggestion. And, you know, we talk about this here all the time. Because somebody has a great suggestion, if we can't do it right now, maybe there's a regulatory reason we can't make that change. We would have no control over that. Maybe it's something we'll strive for down the road if it impacts our budget, let's say, something we've got to work towards. But that's still engaged.
Yes.
So even if the answer might be not yet, you know, that doesn't mean we don't take it seriously and we don't appreciate the input, right? Yes. So when we tie this back into the work that we do, though, highly engaged employees are so important because those folks are going to deliver that high quality care.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of research now that connect those two things, and it makes total sense.
It sure does.
When you think about it. If you know you are cared for, you're included, you are supported as an employee, then you are going to do everything you can to make sure we carry out our mission for the community and provide that high quality care. So I think that's why you see Hospice of Rockingham County, we've landed on this prestigious list 2 years in a row, and we also have a Hospice Elite status, which is our family experience of care scores.
Yes.
So it makes sense that the two things go together. So you think we're going to try for it next year?
Absolutely. No doubt.
Not a question. Not a question.
You know, the first year, it was very scary because, you know, I didn't know the process, didn't really know what to expect. You know, this year was a little easier. You know, I knew what to expect, what they were looking for, what they needed, you know, and you have a timeline to get all the information in. So absolutely, we're going to try for it next year.
And we'll land on that list.
Yes, we will.
So, but this is interesting too. So we've had the opportunity. Last year when we won, we were able to go to Nashville, Tennessee, and that's where the gala was. This year it was in Chicago. So several of us were just there last week. But what an opportunity to hear from all of the other winners.
Yes.
And when you understand that thousands of organizations try this, and it comes down to the top 75 vendors and the top 75 providers, which that is our category, across the country. Yeah. And we've been told, I know, it really is amazing when you think about that. But we've been told that once you make the list, it's even harder to stay on the list.
Yeah.
But talk about that, just why would that be?
Harder to stay on the list?
Harder to stay on the list.
I don't know. I feel like maybe because other organizations are probably providing for their employees all these great benefits and taking great care of them. So, of course, it would be harder because then there would be more people involved in it. But I think that we try very hard to consistently take care of our folks and to consistently listen to our folks. So with that being said, as I sit here and even hearing you say out loud 75 providers, 75 vendors in the whole country and thousands, it kind of gives me goosebumps that, you know,
I agree.
For 2 years straight we were on this list, but I feel like we're going to stay on the list.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think? What do you think?
I think so. Well, as soon as we've got two of the most competitive people I've ever met here.
Yes, we are.
But, you know, I guess it could be seen by some folks going, golly, it's not coming from a braggadocious stance. It's actually extremely humbling
absolutely
to us that we have made this list 2 times in a row. However, it makes me, and I'm going to speak for you because I feel like we share this, and I think it cascades throughout the whole organization. It makes you just want to get better and better.
Absolutely.
And by employees having so much say and seeing us, we're taking your feedback and we've done something positive with it. We've encouraged your feedback and we appreciate that feedback.
Yes.
Then they're more engaged, and so we're all, you just want to improve and improve
Absolutely.
and improve. And that's just going to benefit the community as we grow.
I think I said last week to you that modern healthcare says that we are a best place to work. I think we're the best place to work. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Well, you're not going to get any argument from me, I promise you. And that's a perfect place for us to end, I believe. So thank you so much for joining us for this edition of Compassionate Conversations. We are thrilled to share with you that Hospice of Rockingham County has been named one of the best places to work in healthcare in the country for the second year in a row. If you have any questions about Hospice of Rockingham County, you can feel free to call us at 336-427-9022. You can certainly visit our website at www.hospiceofrockinghamcounty.com.